I'm racing across the world with just one goal, to win the league in as many countries as we can as fast as we can. But there's one big rule. When it's time to switch nations, I can only move clubs to cities within 250 kilometers of teams that I have beaten. It might sound quite far, but this journey will take us over 4,000 kilometers through 8 countries and into 3 leagues that I've never managed in before. But just for this first episode, we're doubling this distance to 500 kilometers. We'll be beginning in Azerbaijan, weaving our way through Europe, including Greece, Croatia and France, before finally ending our trip in the Premier League. It's the ultimate journeyman save, and we'll be trying to learn as much as we can about each nation, city and club. Sit back, grab your favourite Azerbaijani snacks, and let's attack Baku. I guess we should start with our manager and our club choice. Manager was easy. This is the last chance I'll ever have to use Neil Warnock, so he seems to be the perfect choice for this journeyman across the world save. He might be 75 years old, but I think he's got at least 10 more seasons in him. But where is Sheffield's finest ever manager starting? We'll be starting in the capital city of Azerbaijan. Baku, probably most well known for being a Formula 1 race, is also the lowest lying capital city in the world. It's also home to a small football club called Sabail FK. They finished 3rd in their 2nd ever season back in 2017, but they've been relegation candidates ever since. I think they're the perfect team for Neil Warnock. We've got 2 routes that we can take here. We can go via the north, trying to beat Turan and gain access to some of Turkey's most famous sides, including Trabzonspor and Rizespor. Alternatively, we can go via the south and try and beat the worst quality Araz, but this path results in us having to move to a 2nd division Erzurumspor, which would force a promotion and a league win. This is going to put a lot of pressure on 3 matches. The away match at Turan can cut 2 years off our journey. We'll also need to beat the reigning champions Karabag twice to make sure we get the title and we're allowed to leave the country. I have no idea who's in my squad. I have no idea what a good rating for the Azerbaijan Premier League is, but I do know at least one of these players on screen will become a hero in today's episode. Let's find out who. Just like we'll do every season, the first few weeks are all about learning about our squad's strengths and weaknesses. While we have a pretty big budget for this level, we can't compete with a team like Karabag. Before the season starts, they signed 3 of the players that we shortlisted, while we only have enough money to pick up Ozobik and Simi for very cheap transfers. Before we knew it, it was time for Warnock to manage his first ever game in Azerbaijan. Our first game was against another team from Baku, so it was as close to a rivalry as we will get this season. It seemed like Warnock was struggling to adapt to such a different culture in the first half. The second half went so much better. As you'd expect, this first win got the fans on side straight away. A few more games passed, first against Sabah, and then secondly against Zira, and after playing 3 and winning 3, it looked like things were absolutely going Warnock's way. None of these teams were particularly useful for our challenges though, with 2 of the games being at home and the other one here, 600 kilometers away from any playable team in the Turkish league. Time passed and October had the biggest date of the season yet. It was time for Karabag to come to our stadium. Karabag are also unbeaten this year and they've won 10 of the last 11 Azerbaijani Premier League titles. If we wanted to win this league, we had to win this game. All 3,200 seats of the Bayil Arena were sold out, with fans from all 4 Baku teams wanting to see what could become a title decider. Of course, it is a little bit redundant to call the 9th game of the season a title decider, especially when we've got 27 other games and we've still got to play Karabag another 3 times. But it's still very important to get off to a good start, and I would say we did exactly that. We got a shot in after just 5 minutes, but Karabag also had their own attack, hitting the post before we'd even got to 10 minutes, so this was turning out to be a pretty amazing game. Our attacking midfielder played it through to Simi, and I have to say, when I signed him, I didn't actually check his pace, and annoyingly he only has 51 sprint speed. It's still enough to get past a lot of players in this league, but we're going to mainly have to use his physicality and his passing skills, which did lead to this chance, and that would have been an absolutely amazing volley if we could have got that off. While I'm a little bit disappointed by Simi, I can't say the same thing for Ozobik, although it was his mistake that's led to this chance and this good save from our goalkeeper. Ozobik moves and plays like a very premium player. Hopefully you understand what I mean by that, but when he's got control of the ball, you know that he can dribble around 2 or 3 players, and we're going to need to see that in plenty of matches this year. Nothing came from that Karabag corner, but from their counter-attack, something is gonna come. Andrade sprinting straight down the middle and smashing it past our goalkeeper to make it 1-0. We do still have a little bit of time to try and get the comeback, but 10 minutes against the best team in the league is going to take some serious commitment, and we're going to need an absolute wonder goal if we're going to score. Azobic is the kind of guy that can do exactly that. He dribbles round 3, he's got Simi in front of him, he tries to find him, and Simi absolutely whiffs the volley, and unfortunately that isn't the goal, but he's going to get another chance. He does have a little bit of pace, and it's enough to get through this gap. Can he find the finish? The answer is no, he can't even find the target. We would have a couple of half chances just before the game would end, including this one here where Gomes couldn't quite get the shot away, but Karabakh would survive and they would win the first of our 4 matches against them this season. After playing Karabakh, things didn't get much easier for Sabal and Warnock. Only a few days later, we were planning our longest away trip of the season. We were going to play against Araz, and this was one of the 2 away matches that can define our future. Because we're yet to play against Tovuz, we needed to win this match just to make sure that we can leave Azerbaijan. I can already see a few comments asking why Neil Warnock's playing a 4-3-3 instead of a 4-4-2, a formation that he is very famous for using. Well, in this series, we're going to use a variety of the different tactics that Neil Warnock has used throughout his career, and we're actually basing our team this season on the Huddersfield Town tactics that he used towards the end of last year. A 4-2-3-1 with fast build-up, forward runs, and a fairly wide squad is exactly what we're trying. In this really far away day, we're trying to get the ball to Gomes, Azopic, and Simi as much as we can, and this is exactly what Huddersfield Town tried to do with Ward, Diarra, and Karoma last year. While I talk about Neil Warnock's tactics, you could see that we weren't actually having the best first half in this match. With our last chance of the first half though, Gomes got down the wing and his cross really let him down. Simi was in the middle waiting for a header. It was going to be 0-0 at half time and a pretty bad game. But Warnock and the rest of the squad only had 15 minutes to try and get a win so we could secure one of the routes out of Azerbaijan. We got the ball out to Ramazanov, he would cut inside. We had Simi running through the middle, but it would be intercepted. That's how close we were to getting chances. Warnock decided to increase the press. He pushed his defensive line even higher, and it was all Sabile for the last 10 minutes. Simi used his powerful frame to get into the box, and with an open net, we hit the post. An absolutely horrific miss, and that's the kind of thing Warnock's not used to seeing. There's no way Ramazanov gets anywhere near his Sheffield United or Huddersfield Town or even Cardiff City squads, but Azobic might with passing like that. Simi has just enough pace, and his finishing is lethal. Finally, with 5 minutes to go, we get the win. We can actually confirm we can leave the country because there is actually a Turkish team in range of Araz, even if there isn't any other team we've beaten. After the relief of getting a route out of the country, the very next game was away at Tovuz. If we win this, we can head straight for Trabzonspor or Rizespor in the Turkish Premier League. If we don't win this one, then it's going to be a multiple season adventure in the Turkish second division via Erzurumspor. Our team was in way better form than Tovuz, so we knew we had a solid chance. We really want to get this route because Neil Warnock's 75 years old. He doesn't have time to wait around in the Turkish second division or even a second season in the Azerbaijani Premier League. He wants to be moving to those good teams. He wants Rizespor, he wants Trabzonspor. So we needed to get off to a really good start just to keep Warnock happy. And Simi did exactly that. He might not have pace to run, but he has a head, he can jump, he knows how to finish, and he puts us 1-0 up. Tovuz have a chance to equalise basically straight away. It's a brilliant flicked header, and it's an even better volley from the rebound. It's 1-1 within half an hour. This was turning out to be an absolutely amazing match to watch. With some of the Sabile players looking over and seeing Neil Warnock getting passionate on the touchline, they knew they had to kick things up a gear, and straight from kickoff, Armadov runs from defensive midfield, finds Simi, he holds off his man, and finishes straight past the goalkeeper. 2-1 basically instantly. Defensive solidity is a massive part of Warnock's style, so we went all out defense for the rest of the game. I'm sure we can hold out for 45 minutes, right? No, we couldn't even hold out for 10. It was 2-2 before half time. Warnock decided to tell his players to be more aggressive in their defending, but this wasn't what he had in mind. Somehow Sabile got away with that penalty shout, and we survived until half time. 2-2 going into the break. It was going to be a massive half if we wanted to complete this challenge a little bit quicker. This is the kind of thing we need though. Najjar with probably the goal of the season. While he might not have the defensive ability of some of Warnock's old midfielders like Michael Tong, I'd like to see them try this. The amount of technique to hit that straight on the volley, straight back where it came from with that much topspin and that much pace. That is some serious talent right there from Najar. So that meant we just had 20 minutes to hold on for the rest of this game. Of course, Tarantovuz are going to keep pressing forward. They got the ball out wide, a back heel, some poor goalkeeping, some poor defending, and a 3-3 equaliser. I think deep down we knew we were going to get one more chance, and it looked like it was about to come in the 83rd minute. Hazanov turned his man. We had Abdullayev on the left, we had Ramalingon in the middle. The cutback came across, but he didn't hit it first time, and the goalkeeper would smother it. Despite being a really fun game to watch, this 3-3 has put a lot of pressure on the rest of the season. In Azerbaijan, every team plays every other team 4 times, home and away twice, so we could have done with the relief of confirming the better route before the halfway point, but we do have the chance to make things right in the second half of the season. We'll just have to take that match even more seriously. It was actually only a few weeks later that we had to make the long away trip back to Tovuz for the second time. It really didn't matter how far the distance was though, because this time we had Azobic back in the squad and we were even more confident about getting the 3 points. This game had 2 big things happening. First of all, we went behind as we've just seen right there after 25 minutes, but the second thing was how weird the referee was at giving decisions. There was a lot of tackles flying in to be fair, but as Maralami brought the ball into the box, it looked like he got tripped, but no penalty given. I'm not going to be one of those people that claims all referees are corrupt, but there were definitely some strange decisions later on in the game. As always, the team was basically just Azobic doing some nice skills and passing the ball to Simi to get on to shoot, but this time it was the other way around and it worked even better. Azobic with a really nice finish, we had our equaliser, and now we needed a little bit more. It was actually really nice build up there from Simi too to find the space, and it's not really what we signed him to be doing. I think Najar was probably inspired by the last match and tried to do the same right there with a finesse into the top corner, but it was a great save, and this is how you finish. That was such a satisfying goal to watch. Neil Warnock was absolutely ecstatic, the fans all around the stadium were ecstatic, and it looked like we could possibly be going on to get a massive away win against Tarantovuz. So this is one of the strange decisions. They slid in to pass the ball, but they got a free kick because of it, just because we tried to block it. Very unusual, not so sure why that one was given. Some good link-up play again between Azobic and Simi, but this time he was just a battering ram, and he just pushed his way through the Tarantovuz defense and made it 3-1. There's no way we're going to collapse from this position. I think this is possibly the weirdest thing that's ever happened in this save though. Nabalev boots it off a Tarantovuz defender, and they get the throw-in. I have no idea what the referee thought he saw right there, but it did actually nearly lead to a goal, and that would have been absolutely hilarious if somehow we had gone on to draw or lose this game because of a bad throw-in like that. Tarantovuz would keep pushing forward and John would score, and you could feel the atmosphere in the ground change. All of a sudden, Tarantovuz thought they could go on to win. All of a sudden, the Sabail fans thought they were going to draw this match. Simi attempted the overhead kick, but it fell to our defender, and we had a 4-2 win in the last minute. We get the 3 points, and we get the route out of the country. In terms of this challenge's total length, the trip from Sabail's Bail Arena to Karabag's Azza Sun Arena is absolutely tiny. We both call the city of Baku home, so it wasn't actually too much effort to send our scouts to watch Karabag's last 2 matches. We noticed their stadium is a bit more modern than ours, but their centre-backs are massive and slow. Our wingers were probably faster than their fullbacks, and we've got a really physical combination midfield, while they're going a bit more technical. Sabail are just a single point behind Karabag now after 32 games, and we've got the 2 routes secured already. We need a title to be able to leave Azerbaijan. Using all of his experience, Warnock switches from the 4-3-3 we've used all season back to his more traditional 4-4-2 formation. We ride on the bus for 50 minutes and arrive at the Azza Sun Arena. The final team talk was completed and both teams walked onto the pitch. Even pre-match, this game had the atmosphere of a cup final. As part of the move back to a 4-4-2, we focused on getting the ball to our wingers, with Azobic and Simi playing up front together. I think every single Sabail player and fan will be happy about how the first half an hour went. We limited Karabag to just a single shot, and we got a decent chance here. Azobic playing a bit further forwards as one of the strikers, intercepts the ball, runs straight through the middle, and slots it past the goalkeeper. Out of absolutely nowhere, Karabag have gifted us a goal. If we can just hold on for 60 more minutes, we can overtake Karabag and go to first in the Azerbaijan Premier League. The best news is that our midfield too in the 4-4-2 are both centre-backs actually playing in midfield. We have so much solidity in this squad, so if we ever had any chance of holding them off, this was going to be the match. We can't afford to concede straight away. We miss our slide tackle, and it's a really difficult chance that finds the roof of our net, and straight away, we have conceded a goal. That's Yassine Benzia, by the way. We're trying to compete with teams that can sign players like him, while we have to pick up players like Simi from Torino's reserve team. The only reason we're even in with a shout is from Neil Warnock's technical skills. Simi and Ozobic linking up well, and that would have been absolutely amazing. If that had found the top corner, we would have gone back ahead straight away, and surely that would have killed the morale all around this stadium. But it's going to stay 1-1. Getting towards half-time, some good defending, but then a mix-up, some more good defending, and nearly another mix-up, and we just about get away. We're trying to play it out from the back, trying to keep the ball a little bit more, and we have survived at 1-1 to half-time. The second half is going to be absolutely season-defining. So when Simi played through Ozobic for the second time this match, Ozobic would finesse it past the goalkeeper. This guy is absolutely amazing. When I said there would be a hero in this squad, I think Ozobic is the man. He's been showing off some of his 5-star skills in this game, and he's shown up when it absolutely matters with a brace in the biggest match of the season. Some good hold-up play from Simi, but it was all about that finish, all about that composure. And now, this time, we only have to hold on for 30 minutes, not 60. Some good classic Warnock ball carrying there from midfield, and Simi is going to link up with Ozobic. This will kill the game. It's his hat-trick, the big match player, the hero that Sabile deserved. No wonder Neil Warnock is looking that happy, because he knows his team have taken a big step today towards getting his first ever Azerbaijan title. He's never won a top division, and this could be his chance at 76 years old. He just needs his team to hold on for 10 more minutes, but a missed slide tackle sees a cross come in. I think there was a fingertip save from the goalkeeper right there, keeping it off the Karabag player's head. And Karabag would not have another attack in the match. Simi nearly closing the game off right there with a 4-1 win. But we'll definitely take the 3 goals, the hat-trick for Ozobic, and also the 3 points that are going to be staying in Baku. We're now first in the table, and things are definitely in our hands. We have some pretty favourable matches to end the season, just 3 games to go. Let's see how we get on. With just 3 games to go, we have a 2-point lead. We just about scrape a win in the first match. We easily win in the second match, and we were really feeling the tension going into the last match of the season. Simi's overhead kick put us ahead early on, but Araz would go on to equalise, meaning we had just 15 minutes to score. This one-on-one chance, probably our best opportunity, hit it at the goalkeeper, but we scored the rebound. Somehow, we ended the season with 5 wins in a row, and Karabag will have to accept finishing second place, just 2 points behind us. Somehow, we have done it. Neil Warnock is free to leave the nation, and our away wins mean that we're free to join either Trabzonspor or Rizespor in the Turkish Super League. Trabzon, which is probably most well known for being one of the last Greek-owned cities in Anatolia, was also the hometown of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. It's also home to 7-time Turkish champions Trabzonspor. They last won the title in 2022, but this team has been fighting for 3 Istanbul giants for decades. We've got our team. Just like we had in Azerbaijan, we've got 2 routes we can leave Turkey from. We'll have to beat the newly promoted Göztepe, whose strategic position on the coast allows us to move to either Athens, Crete or Thessalonica next season. If we go via Athens, we get access to 2 of Greece's most famous sides, Olympiakos and Panathinaikos. Alternatively, we can go for Crete, but this path results in us having to move to a lower quality OFI Crete, which will need a total rebuild before they're ready to actually win the Greek league. We've got a lot of big games coming up this season. The away match at Göztepe is going to be crucial for leaving the country, as we just mentioned, but we'll also need to beat the reigning champions Fenerbahce home and away to make sure we get this title. Besiktas, Galatasaray and Başakşehir are also going to be massive games this season. I've got no real idea who's in my squad, but at least I've heard of most of these players. How perfect would it be for someone like Nicola Pepe or Thomas Meunier to become a Trabzonspor legend? I know at least one of these players is going to become a hero, so let's find out who. Just like with every save, the first few weeks are all about learning about what your squad has. We have a way bigger budget than we had back in Azerbaijan, but our team isn't quite ready to compete with Fenerbahce. We want a little bit of pace and a little bit of height up front, and our scouts have found us just the men. As every single other team in the league starts to strengthen, we decide to splurge most of our budget on the giant striker Alexander Sorloth, the rapid winger Emmanuel Dennis, and the goal-scoring left-back Luka Digne. With our deals finished, it was time for Warnock to manage his first ever game in the Turkish Super League. Our first game was absolutely huge because we would be hosting Galatasaray, who were also going for the title. We'd be facing all 3 of the Istanbul teams in our first 6 matches. Galatasaray have 23 league titles, we have 7, but Taxiarchis Fountas has his first ever goal for Trabzonspor. It was so important to get ahead early on, and I'm glad we did it. Fountas running from midfield, the flares in the crowd, the fans going absolutely crazy. What an important first goal of the season that could be. But then we've made a massive mistake and we're bailed out by the goalkeeper. Conceding a goal like that would have absolutely killed us in the eyes of the fans. Instead, we're going to do another mistake. This time, Davinson Sanchez, the former Spurs centre-back, dribbling around Thomas Meunier before Icardi's penalty gets saved. This match really does have it all, and our goalkeeper is on absolute fire. Good interception that from Fountas, puts someone on the floor as well from Mendy, but Zaha will lay it off to Tete, and in front of our home fans, he smashed one in the same top corner we scored in earlier. Dennis on his debut has the chance to absolutely erupt the stadium, and he does exactly that. A really nice finish, tried to put the goalkeeper down with a fake shot, and you can see the fans in the background there loving every single minute of this. Zaniolo will get the cross in, Demirbay will do an ambitious control, it'll fall back to him. Trabzonspor just couldn't clear the ball, and Demirbay makes it 2-2. Dennis on the turn gives it to Bardi, and Visca, our captain, gets his shot saved this time by Muslera, the long-standing Galatasaray goalkeeper. With both goalkeepers on absolute top form in this game, I guess a draw is a fair result on the opening day, but we need to improve if we want to win this league. After our opening day draw at Galatasaray, we faced Pendikspor in our second game, a team that was probably going to finish last. It was an easy win, and we were already on a little bit of a roll. If any team was going to stop that though, it was going to be Fenerbahce. In this fixture 2 years ago, our fans actually stormed onto the pitch and attacked players. Those fans have now been banned, and this fixture won't have any of that, but of course it is going to be still a massive rivalry game, so anything could happen on the pitch. Ever since these two teams played for the first time back in 1976, things have got more and more intense, and it's almost at the level now where it's as intense as some of the Istanbul derbies. It's been a title deciding match in a number of seasons, the fans are absolutely crazy on both sides, and we need to be doing much better with our chances than that from Emmanuel Dennis. When we signed him, we didn't really look at his finishing stat, and we can see why he's only rated 74 despite being so highly rated in other areas. Lucadinho was mainly signed because of his free kick abilities, and we're going to try and score at least a couple of them this season, but it's not going to happen if he keeps hitting them like that. Soloff, on the other hand, knows exactly how to hit a ball. Look at that, he even gets the ricochet off the post with a second celebration. 1-0 up against Fenerbahce, and it was actually quite a satisfying goal to score. Nice little finesse shot, chipping it over the goalkeeper's stretched right arm. Sloppy defending, sure, from Fenerbahce, but crucial and ruthless finishing from Trabzonspor. Visca would get the ball out wide, and Emmanuel Dennis is known for his jumping. He might not be known for his finishing as we saw earlier, but he should be scoring that one. This time he does get the finish right, but he doesn't get his movement off the ball right. We thought we were 2-0 up, but the referee had his flag up. He was offside. This season we've gone with the classic Neil Warnock 4-4-2, and Soloff as the target man is working absolute wonders. He scores yet again, a nice volley there with his left foot, and his return to Trabzonspor is looking like an absolutely amazing deal. I did think that getting Dennis for £4.5 million was surprisingly cheap, and it turns out he just can't stay on side. We're going to need to work on that aspect of his game. If there's one manager you want that can improve a limited striker, it is Neil Warnock. Remember Andy Gray, Paul Pesci-Salido, Luciano Becchio. Warnock got them all firing in goals, and he's going to do exactly the same to Emmanuel Dennis. I can feel it. Somehow, even with one of the hardest starts imaginable, we were still joint first after the first 7 games. I wasn't really expecting Konyaspor to be the team that we were level with in first, but we did have a chance to fix that. We'd be making the 700-kilometer trip to have a chance of finally breaking free and claiming the top spot for our own. Of course, no league titles are won after 11 games, and Konyaspor have played most of the bottom 8 in their first 11. I think Neil Warnock had gone back to the 2006-07 Sheffield United season for inspiration of this tactic, because it seemed like Rob Hulse from back then was very similar to how Alexander Soloff is playing for us. He's getting into the middle, we're getting wingers out wide, and we're getting chances from that. You can see right there our 2 wingers linking up. Visca with a very ambitious header, to be fair, but on another day that might have looped over the goalkeeper and into the back of the net. Nicola Pepe was another important part on the left wing, but here is Sorloth, and his finishing let him down the first time, but the second time, it was exactly what we needed. We were ahead against Konyaspor and officially in first place in the league. Yet again, we got our wingers involved, we got our target man involved, and despite being quite short, Emmanuel Dennis does have the skills of a target man himself. He's got a bit more pace, and you can see a bit of his flair showing off right there, but it was the epitome of what Neil Warnock was trying to do this season. Get it down the wings to the fast lads, give it to the target man in the middle, and then hope that your little target man in the middle can find the back of the net. Great goalkeeping right there to keep it 2-0. We want to get our clean sheet, and we do exactly that. With our biggest 3 games out of the way this early in the season, the only other important game was in January. Before that though, we were on a really good run. We beat Boluspor, Sivasspor and Ankara Gücü in a row, but then it was time. We would have to beat the newly promoted Göztepe because they were going to be key for us escaping Turkey. We're not in Azerbaijan anymore, so we don't get 2 chances a season to beat them. If we don't beat them today, we're in Turkey for a full second season. Normally that sounds like it would be a lot of pressure, but for Neil Warnock, he does not mind pressure. His team talk was especially fiery, and you can see how much Sorloth was inspired by it. A nice half volley only finding the post, and really Trabzonspor could be 1 or 2-0 up at this point in the game. Göztepe were way more physical than we were expecting, so when Funtas held off their centre-back to go 1-on-1, it did feel like the players were feeling the pressure a little bit more than Neil Warnock. Sometimes it's not actually a player that changes the match, sometimes it's the referee, and when he decided to give a second yellow card to this Göztepe player, we knew things were firmly on our side for the last 20 minutes of the game. With a big hole in their central midfield, Emmanuel Dennis would play a brilliant ball through to Bardi. Bardi would try and dribble around Sir Best. He would do it. In the middle he had Sorloth, and with a volley into the ground over the goalkeeper, finally Trabzonspor had the lead. It was a really nice finish. Really appreciate the toe poke into the ground over the goalkeeper. We would kill the game off for the rest of the match, and that would be it. We would have a win. After the relief of getting a route out of the country, the very next game was away at Besiktas. This rivalry isn't quite as intense as the one we have with Fenerbahce, but there's no real friendly games in Turkey. We have the better form, but they have the slightly better squad, so we knew we had a pretty solid chance. Because we're in January though, we can actually make the squad even better, with Kamil Petakowski joining us for well below his true value. He'd be making his debut in this massive game. The amount of money that the Istanbul capital city clubs have over the backwaters like Trabzonspor means that getting a bargain is even more important for us, and I think we have one because he was an absolute rock at the back in this match. If he can perform even half as well as Sorloth and Dennis have in the first half of the season, then we have got an absolute bargain because they've been insane since we brought them in. They were going to be crucial in this one, but they both missed chances in the first half, meaning the second half was all to play for between Besiktas and Trabzonspor. Abubakar came on off their bench and he nearly assisted a goal there in the 72nd minute. And to be honest, as soon as he came on, it totally changed the game. He's a proper Neil Warnock style striker, and while he wasn't directly involved in the goal, his presence was causing us a lot of issues at the back. We've actually been pretty good at attacking this season, but we could not get past Omar Colley. If we were going to score, we needed something special. Besiktas playing it out from the back as they have done for the majority of the game. We nearly intercept the pass, but Colley makes his first mistake and is blasting it past his own goalkeeper. It's an own goal. I don't know why Sorloth's celebrating, but I know Neil Warnock will be, and I know all of the fans will be, because this point could be massive come the end of the season. Last year we won the league by a single point, and it's looking like it could be just as close this year. So if we can defend this corner, we have got a crucial point against one of the hardest away days that you can possibly have in Turkey. While a lot of teams are nowhere near helping us in our quest, one interesting location in Turkey is Gaziantep. We're the most southern team in the league. They would be in a position that let us move to Syria, Lebanon, northern Israel and Cyprus if these were actually options in the game. Sadly for us, these countries are kind of useless for getting closer to Britain, so this was just another match against a much worse opponent. The season was starting to come to an end. Just like how we started with 3 tough games in our first 6, we were ending with 3 tough games in our last 4. None were going to be tougher than Fenerbahce, who've recovered from a pretty awful start to be right alongside us in second place. Simply put, if we lose this game, we might lose the league. It was that big of a deal. There was no need to send scouts to watch Fenerbahce games. There was no need to actually change our formation. We just had to keep doing what we were doing, and hope we maybe got a little bit lucky. I think luck is the best way to describe the first 10 minutes of this game. To start off with, Fenerbahce chipped one over the bar when they were 1-on-1. They dominated the ball, they got another chance. What a brilliant save that is to keep it 0-0. And they got a corner just a few seconds later. They would pass it around again. They were absolutely amazing at their build-up play. It would come to Fred and he would hit the post. I'll be honest, Warnock was not happy, and this was about the first time we actually got the ball into the opponent's half. Emmanuel Dennis, he had Sorloth making a run through the middle, but he hit it himself, and it didn't quite fall to Sorloth. We would get the rebound, but we were shooting from such a ridiculous angle that was never going to go in the back of the net. Despite giving up a lot of chances, we were actually pretty sound at the back until Fenerbahce would smash one straight past our goalkeeper. Nothing we could do about that. Cengiz Under opening the scoring. Fenerbahce would try and be a bit too ambitious with their playing out the back, and they would just pass it straight to Sorloth. It was a very lucky pass that to go into Pepe. They closed down the angle for Sorloth, but we'd already pressed pass, and somehow, out of absolutely nowhere, we tackle it off their defender, and we get the equaliser. I cannot say we deserved this goal. Everything else in the game was Fenerbahce except that one Dennis chance. While there hasn't been quite as much tension as there was in that game where we were fighting on the pitch, we were still fighting for every single ball. That was brilliant defending there from Piatkowski. You see how much it means to this team. That's the kind of team spirit Neil Warnock brings to sides. Fenerbahce knew they really wanted to win this game, because if they did, they would go 4 points clear at the top of the Turkish league. But we kept pushing on as well. Viska making his way into the box, gets the cross in, and before we can even head it, the referee blows his whistle. I thought this could be a free kick on the edge of the box, but somehow we have got the most tame penalty I think I have ever seen. Of course, we're not going to complain. We've got the captain stepping up to take it. Can Viska score? He's not the best penalty taker, but that is unsavable. Straight in the top corner. We have the lead, 2-0, and we really do not deserve this at all. We got the lucky first goal. We got the most dodgy penalty to make it 2-0. I'm not going to say it's corruption, but honestly, I would be very annoyed if I was a Fenerbahce fan watching this match back. They're going to keep attacking, of course. They have a lot of players that are relentless in their playstyle, one of which was Fred. He passes it to Under. He runs into the box. Another absolutely amazing save. Trabzonspor fans and players all celebrating that like it was a goal. And they might be celebrating another goal here, because Funtas has robbed Fred, and he's run the entire length of the pitch, gone around the goalkeeper, and it hits the defender. It's 3-0, 3 very undeserved goals, but 3 goals we are absolutely going to take. We just kick the ball away. We just want to keep the ball. We're not going to give up our clean sheet. We want the final whistle. And when it finally comes, we confirm we get 3 goals, we get 3 points, and we also go clear at the top of the Turkish Super League. No wonder we're celebrating. We've got 3 matches left this season, and it's entirely possible that we are going to win the league, first try in Azerbaijan and first try in Turkey. Despite beating Fenerbahce, we still hadn't won anything yet. We had 3 more banana skins left. First was Adana Demirspor, who we beat. Next was Konyaspor again, visiting our home ground, which we drew, which meant we knew a win would win us the title in our last match. We just about scraped past the already relegated Pendikspor, and Trabzonspor had done it. For the 8th time, we were Turkish champions, and we also had the perfect route to Greece lined up. We had offers from 2 of them, Olympiakos and Panathinaikos, but we're actually moving to the 5th biggest island in the Mediterranean in the south of Greece. Heraklion is the biggest city in Crete, and it's most well known for the Minotaur and his labyrinth, and it's also home to one of Europe's oldest civilizations, the Minoans. It was also home to 1986 Greek Super League runners-up, OFI Crete. They've not had a good team since the late 80s, but with Warnock in charge, things are about to change. For the first time, the 2 routes that we can take to leave Greece actually end up in different countries. With northern Greece being pretty empty when it comes to teams, Panathinaikos and Aris are our best chances to race through Serbia. On the other side of Greece, we can actually beat Paz Giannina and move to Italian club Lecce, who have now been relegated back to Serie B. It's a tough choice between a 2-season rebuild in a better quality Italian league or a 1-season run at the title with Serbia's worst team, Radnik Srdica. We've got a ton of huge games coming up this season before we have to decide though. We will actually get 2 attempts at leaving the country because Aris and Panathinaikos both share the same city, but we'll also need to beat the reigning champions AEK Athens to make sure we get the title. Panathinaikos, Olympiakos and PAOK are all also huge matches if we want to go on to be champions. While I'm not totally up to date with my Greek football squads, it was actually surprising how many of this team we actually knew. John Terral played for Brentford, Aaron Leia Iseka used to play for Barnsley, and Nua Dicko was in the Championship too. They all played against Warnock's Cardiff side, and that's the era of tactics we're going to be using this season. Just like every save, July is all about learning about who you need to sign and sell. We wanted a bit more technique and height at the back, and our academy scout found us just the man. At 17 years old, Demetrio is a homegrown fan of the club, and who knows, maybe his free kick abilities will actually win us a game later in the season. We can't only rely on our academy though. With the size of our budget being £15 million, I would assume a very wealthy fan has probably taken over the club. We want to keep things as Greek as possible, so every player we're going to sign is going to be from a different Greek island. First up, we decide to splurge on homegrown Cretan striker Georgios Giacomakis, free agent Taxiarchis Funtas, who's coming with us from Trabzonspor, and British-born Greek international George Baldock. We also have the opportunity to loan in the Greek wonderkid Georgios Koutseis. With our first set of deals fully finalised, it was time for Warnock to manage its first ever game in the Greek Super League. Our first match was actually a really big one too. We'd be visiting Thessaloniki to play Aris, who were one of the teams that we had to beat if we wanted to move to Serbia. When it comes to squads in the Greek Super League though, Aris are actually not that good of a team. The one thing that they are really good at though is providing an atmosphere. Their fan group Super 3 is one of the largest left-wing, radical anarchist groups in the entire continent of Europe, and their fans provide one of the best backdrops to any away day that you can ever experience. So we knew it was going to be tough to even get a point in our first match of the season in Thessaloniki. Our goalkeeper was absolutely keeping us in it and giving us a chance of getting that point, and Mosquera would have our first real chance. 1-on-1 with Brabec, somehow he doesn't even hit the target. Because it took us 45 minutes to get our first chance, we knew that the second chance we got in the second half would absolutely have to count. So when we got brought down on the edge of the box, we knew we had to shoot from this chance. Demetrio has the playstyle plus for free kick taking, so as he ran up, we were pretty confident. Unfortunately, it turned out to be one of the worst free kicks I've ever seen. In the season that Cardiff got promoted under Neil Warnock, a lot of their goals came from a rapid winger who was playing more like a striker. Junior Hoylett back there, but Koutseis has the exact same profile for us. He didn't quite have enough pace right there to get on the end of that ball, but we knew he'd get at least one more chance in this game. When our substitute midfielder Kaio played it through to Koutseis, we thought that was going to be the chance, but it was another absolutely amazing save in a game that was absolutely dominated by the goalkeepers. With the game ending as a draw, that means we don't actually have Aris as a way out of the country, so we're going to need to beat the other team from Thessaloniki. After Aris, we faced Panathinaikos, a team that was only a few points ahead of us last season. This summer, we'd massively improved our squad, and theirs had only got weaker, so it was a pretty easy win. We'd actually had a pretty good start to the season too, but if any team was going to stop that, it was going to be one of the teams from Athens. Annoyingly, in our next 4 matches, we had to play all 3 of the Athens Giants. The first of these games was against last year's champions, AEK. Last year, AEK went on to get 86 points, which was a whole 22 more than second place PAOK, so this was going to be a very tough game. They were by far the best team in this division when it came to squad quality. They've won about 17 titles, which is the second most ever, and we were riding our luck early in this game. A really good interception and a really good block there, keeping it 0-0. Just before half-time, John Terral would move forward, and it was probably the worst shot we'll have this entire season. We kept attacking, and a really nice back heel from Terral saw George Baldock, the man who scored 11 goals in over 400 games, score his first goal in just his second match for OFI Crete. We're playing him as a right mid in a 3-5-2, so maybe he is going to get forward a little bit more, but still, it was a bit of a collector's item seeing a goal from George Baldock. Because they're playing in the Champions League, AEK Athens actually made quite a few changes at half-time. One of the players they didn't bring off was Ezequiel Ponce, and he was a big part of this move, where Zine would have yet another shot saved by our goalkeeper. In these first two matches, our goalkeeper was on absolute top form. He had another save after 55 minutes, and it only took another 3 minutes for him to have to make another save. This time, it was a double save where he just about caught the ball away from the striker. Taxiarchos Funtas got subbed off. He's not actually impressed us too much in these first two games. He seemed a lot more effective playing in Turkey than in Greece, and maybe it's the more attacking nature of the Greek Super League versus the Turkish Super League. But we need him to step up if we are going to go on to win this title. If we're going to win this match, all we have to do is see out another 30 seconds. So we decide to press high, and we confirm we beat AEK Athens at home. They were so good last season, but we've managed to beat them. This could actually turn out to be our year. Somehow, even with one of the hardest starts possible and a loss thrown in, we were still towards the top of the league after just 4 games. Unsurprisingly though, one of the teams above us was Olympiakos, but we had the chance to fix that. In training, our first choice goalkeeper Pashalakis had a knock, so former FIFA wonderkid Stefanos Capino got the gloves against his former team. He didn't quite live up to his 86 potential on FIFA, but now he had the chance to show the world how good he could have been. The teams in this match had a combined 47 league titles between them. That's right, we have 0, Olympiakos have nearly 50, and you know that they're trying to get another title this season. They were going to be another one of our massive rivals, even if their team wasn't quite as good as it has been in a few other seasons. Olympiakos are on really good form. I mean, last year they got to the Europa Conference League final and lost it. But really, we should have gone ahead right there. Funtas yet again disappointing with his finishing. Geografifa has also been quite a disappointing signing. He hasn't actually scored a goal for us, but nearly did from that corner. But the game stays at 0-0. It looked like things were about to change though, because we made a massive mistake. We got a kind of harsh red card right there with Giannoulis, and we didn't even have another centre-back on the bench. We decided to bring in the Icelandic left-back Þóri Arason to play centre-back. But of course, with a very young centre-back, a left-back, and someone very tired, things were not looking good. It didn't actually take Olympiakos that long to pull the ball across and basically score in an open net. Not great goalkeeping there from Capino, but that just meant we had to go all-out attack for the rest of this game. Mosquera would run down the wing. He would find Funtas, a strange chip up, and it would fall to Baldock. He was so close to getting a second goal in as many games. We subbed on Nuadiko, and it was his run from deep that went around 4 players before he coolly finessed the ball past the Olympiakos goalkeeper. That point could be absolutely massive come the end of the season. He's our 4th choice striker, but honestly, it was a run that someone like Lionel Messi would have been happy to do. We of course want to try and go on and get the win. Funtas would play it through to Felipe, and it was only a great save from Olympiakos that kept us from scoring the 87th and 92nd minute. We take the draw, but we could easily have won that match. We were heading away for our last game of the Athens hat-trick too, with Panathinaikos hosting us after we did a long flight from Crete to Athens. Just like Olympiakos, Panathinaikos are one of the teams above us in the table. We'd be making this 320-kilometer trip knowing we had the chance to overtake them with a win and getting a little bit closer to that top spot. It did seem like this could be Panathinaikos' year though. Unlike AEK Athens and Olympiakos, who have shown a little bit of weakness even if it was only against us, Panathinaikos haven't lost a game, they haven't drawn a game, they've played 5 and won all 5. We knew that we had to make the most of every single chance that we got. The first one was John Terrell smashing it over the bar from outside the box, but the second one was actually a much better chance. Terrell would pass it to Koutsias, and it was yet another absolutely amazing save in the Greek League that kept the game goalless. Terrell was the best player of this match by far. We were producing some nice passing moves, and we were so close to getting in there with a bit of tiki-taka on the edge of the box. Panathinaikos finally showed up in the second half, and they did a bit of tiki-taka themselves. Some great defending there from Mosquera, and we just about keep the ball clear. 10 minutes later, Funtas finally did a big impact on a game. He cut inside the ball, we had a chance, it would fall back to Funtas. We couldn't quite score, but at least it's positive when it comes to how well he's performing. He would be involved again right here, winning the ball high, passing it to John Terrell. We pulled it across, but it was Dimitriou, our young centre-back, hitting it. Anyone else, and I think that's a goal. But of course, with just a few minutes left, Panathinaikos are going to try and win this game too. We got so lucky, not only with the penalty shout, but with the amazing save. But we couldn't clear the ball. They would recycle it. They would get the ball on the end of the box. Vilhena into Mancini. And with just 15 seconds left in the match, Panathinaikos proved why they had gone on to now win 6 out of 6 at the start of the season. They were the ones to watch. We did have one last chance, but we didn't make the most of it, and Panathinaikos would now extend their lead at the top of the table. With our hardest 3 games out of the way early in this half of the season, the only other important game was on the last day of November. We were actually on a really good run before that though. We beat Kivisias, Atromitos and Volos in a row, but then it was time. After we drew with Aris, we really had to try and beat Pasgianina just to make sure we could leave the country on the low chance that we somehow won this championship. If we didn't beat them, it wasn't officially over though, because we could get another chance at beating either them or Aris, because this league splits into a championship and relegation group at the end of the season. If we don't win today, we could get lucky and face one of them away, but it was definitely not a certainty, so we had to win this match. With only about 10 or so games of the main season to go, George Baldock, our current player of the season, decided he wants to retire at the end of this year. That means if we can't beat this team, if we don't win the league, then we're going to have to find a new star man to play on that right wing. It's almost impressive how bad Epirus, the region that Pasgianina are from, is at football. It's also impressive how bad that goal would have been if we weren't rescued by the linesman's flag saying that that goal was actually offside. We had a second chance to stay in this match, of course. With the bizarre quality of the goalkeepers in Greece, I think this is the lowest scoring league I've ever been in. Just look at that save right there. That is an absolute world-class save from one of the worst teams in the Greek Super League. It's not just that the goalkeepers are good though, I think the finishing on average is pretty poor compared to both Turkey and Azerbaijan. Funtas is known for his finesse shots, but he can't even hit the target right there. John Terral, yet again being a really good player, a bicycle kick, poor finish, and finally we get the goal that sends those away fans absolutely crazy. Funtas with his first goal, but honestly we expected him to finish it. It's the assist that is worth looking at again. The bicycle kick off the crossbar, you can tell it wasn't an intended assist, but it's going to be huge for our season nonetheless. Koutsias has the chance to make it 2-0, and yet again, the finishing is lacking from the young striker. Despite both our strikers and Funtas playing pretty poorly, we just about hold on and we get a massively important win. After the relief of beating the only Epirot team to ever make the first division, the very next game was away at AEK Athens. Because the league splits in half very soon, we need to be as close as we can to the leaders just to make sure we get the championship group. This means a win against AEK Athens would be absolutely massive. While I couldn't quite beat AEK Athens, Warnock's 3-5-2 formation still saw out the rest of the season in style. We had a win against Lamia, where the Koutsias and Giacomakis partnership was just way too good for them, and we also got a draw against Olympiakos at home. This was the match that guaranteed our spot in the championship group. With 6 teams in the group, every team plays each other twice, which means we have 10 games to try and overtake both PAOK and Panathinaikos and win this title. We actually opened the group stage with an away tie at Olympiakos. We weren't expecting much, but somehow we got an early lead and then managed to hold on for the rest of the game. The next match was against Panserikos, who somehow scraped into the championship group. I'm not sure how they did it, but this away day was massive in more than one way. We could finally beat a team from Thessaloniki and get that route to Serbia that we really want. While it would be fun to head to Italy rather than Serbia, I think it would be more interesting to go via Serbia, Croatia and Germany than it would be to go via Italy, France and Belgium. If we want to have the choice though, we still have to win this game, and Panserikos were in the championship group for a reason. They're really threatening, they have a lot of pace down the wings, and we just had to make the most of any chance we got. Thankfully, John Terral, another one of our Player of the Year contenders, scored his first goal of the season with his head after a really nice cross from our striker. Not the combination that you would expect, but thankfully the one that we got. With just a few seconds left to hold on into this game, they wasted their final chance, and we confirmed we can head via Serbia and Croatia if that's the route that we choose. Now all we had to do was just win the league. We still had 6 points to try and make up on the leaders, but we did have 2 games to play against Panathinaikos. The first of the 2 was away, and the other one was at home, but on the very last day of the season. It wasn't quite clear if it was a freak accident or if it was just wear and tear from playing the entire season, but Dimitriou's injury meant that Gian Olus was going to be starting for us. His debut, his first game of the season, when he's not even starting for our B team. It was going to be a massive ask of him to help us keep a clean sheet. In fact, we couldn't even keep a clean sheet for the first 5 minutes. Neil Warnock was absolutely fuming. We could be throwing away this title opportunity in the match where it matters the most. Giannopoulos missing the header, and it was so close to being 2-0, and both goals would have probably been the debutante's mistakes. while he doesn't have much experience. Baldock does, and it was his run and his cut inside that found us the equaliser just before the half an hour mark. It was a cool flip, and we were back in this game, back in the title hunt. All we needed was one more goal. We had the chance to get it when Kutsaias used his pace to get into the box, but Dragowski produced an absolutely top-class save. We had another chance, but the ball was cleared off the line from the corner, and then the next chance was looped over the bar. Something you might not know about Neil Warnock is that he used to be a winger himself. He wasn't a rapid, tricky winger. He was much more like George Baldock, and I think he would have been very happy with his performance in this first half. But still, Neil Warnock gave a typically fiery halftime speech. He fired up all of his team, and they all went out looking very inspired. A big mistake there from our centre-back, who decided to flop on the floor, and another mistake from our goalkeeper proved that sometimes the best team talks aren't actually that effective on the pitch. This left us with 15 minutes to try and win this match, and Felipe got us back into it with a nice shot looping over the goalkeeper. Real topspin on that effort. Nuadiko came off the bench. He ran from deep. He ran inside two players. He cut it back to Felipe. His pass across to Abanda was eventually turned in. It was a typical Neil Warnock tactical masterclass, his substitutes all combining, and after one of the most important turnarounds of his career, his team were now just 6 points off first place Panathinaikos. Despite winning the game, we hadn't actually won anything yet. We had 3 games before we had to play Panathinaikos again. The first was against PAOK, who we beat. The second was against AEK Athens, visiting our home ground, which we drew. And another draw at home to PAOK meant we knew that a win in our final game of the season would actually give us the title. 64 points would be the lowest winning score in any Greek Super League season. That just proves how close this league has been. From last place to first, any team was capable of beating any team, and we already knew we were capable of beating Panathinaikos. It was only 3 weeks ago that we beat them for the last time, and now we had our home crowd behind us. We had 2 of the teams from Athens also supporting us just to prevent Panathinaikos getting another title. It seemed like the whole of Greece wanted us to win this game, and with his performance in the first 10 minutes, Stefanos Kapino definitely wanted redemption. We had a chance to go ahead. Kutsaias with an absolutely terrible finish. That would have eased the nerves all around the stadium. The rest of the first half was all about Panathinaikos. We got lucky with some defending and also got lucky with some terrible finishing from their striker. Something about the championship group really has made the Greek Super League come alive. There's chances all over the place. Our first big one falls to Geografifa, our star striker, our record signing, our hometown boy. He only played 10 games for OFI on loan back in 2019 before we signed him, but he is loving being at the club he supported growing up, and Funtas is also having one of the best games he's had for OFI Crete. Neil Warnock's sides love big game players, and it looked like all of his signings had that trait, because Kutsaias was also on fire in this match. He used his pace to run around the defence, and he cheekily chipped it over the goalkeeper, and out of absolutely nowhere, Crete had a 2-0 lead. He hasn't showed any of this pace throughout this season until this game, but what a time to show it. Giacomakis used some strength that he hasn't shown this season either, and Fontas had the chance to do what he did for Trabzonspor and score a really important game, but we couldn't quite kill the game off. Caro would intercept the ball, Kutsaias would flick it up, and Giacomakis from the edge of the box would lob the keeper with a header. Out of nowhere, that goal, and to be fair, all of the goals in this game have been absolutely ridiculous, low XG chances. They're the kind of goals that only passionate, big game players can score, and that is what Neil Warnock is all about. Theodosilakis could have made it even better if he had a little bit more pace, but 3-0 is more than good enough for what Neil Warnock wants us to do. Of course, Panathinaikos are not going to give up this easily. They have a lot of pride themselves, but it's another great save that from Stefanos Kapino. Trying to keep a clean sheet in this last game of the season. We'll have to defend one more corner, and then we could be champions. Kapino claims it. He actually sees it's 2v1 up front, and Theodosilakis flicks it on. Abanda keeps running, and he's got Giacomakis. He's one-on-one. He's got the pace to stay away from the defender, and he gets the big match, the final match of the season hat-trick that wins his hometown club the championship title. I don't think I can express how happy that makes me, that not only have we officially won the league and we can get out of Greece, but we did it with a hometown player at his boyhood club. Absolutely crazy scenes. We had offers from two nations. We had Italian club Lecce and Serbian club Srdelica. It's going to be Serbia that hosts Neil Warnock for the fourth leg of this incredible journey. As a town, Srdelica is unfortunately most well known for wartime tragedy. On a more positive note though, it's also home to the Serbian Superliga's most southerly club, Radnik Srdelica. There's very little history about this club I can find before 2005, but they've never finished above 6th place in this league, so things are about to change. If we want to leave Serbia at the end of this season, we'll also have to get a 4th league title, and we'll have to beat either Spartak Subotica or Futbalski Klub TSC if we want to progress. Both teams are slightly too far away from Austria for us to head there, so that means we have to visit Croatia next. Zagreb again is slightly out of reach. In fact, only one team on FIFA is going to be in reach of either team, so that means next season, no matter what, we're heading to NK Osijek in Croatia. In Serbia, Red Star and Partizan Belgrade are such big rivals that they'll probably not even like being together in this sentence, but we'll have to finish above both of them if we really want to win the title. Their budgets are over 20 times larger than ours, so we'll have to make the most of free agents and loans to get even close to competing. Of course, the away games at Subotica and TSC are also going to be massive if we want to leave this country. We have no loyalty to any of these players and honestly no knowledge about them either, so we can try and do a total rebuild in one summer. We have 1 or 2 players in the squad who seem kinda overvalued for their stats, so they're the first ones to get transfer listed. With some serious work in the transfer market, our squad goes from looking like this to looking a lot better and looking a bit like this. Our first game of the season was against a semi-local club in Radniki Nice. We lost. I guess our hard work in pre-season wasn't quite good enough. Our second game went even worse. In a game against Zeles Nikar Pančevo, who are one of the very few teams that are actually worse than our squad, we lost yet again. This start really is not good enough, but for the first time in over 4 years, it looks like Warnock might not be heading straight for the title. Clearly, to win the league, we'll need a bit of luck, and after a few performances that see us rise to mid-table, our tiny amount of luck actually runs out. Our biggest signing, our highest overall player and only decent striker gets a big hit in a game, and he'll be out for the majority of this season. I think we're going to have to take this disaster of a year as a new opportunity, because we're throwing in the towel on this season. Our team isn't even close to competing with Partizan and Red Star, so we'll have to scout basically an entirely new team and take it into a second Serbian season. For our second pre-season, we actually got given a totally refreshed budget, and we also moved on a few players that we signed last year. To replace them, we looked to buy some players that were born close to Srdelica. Ivan Ilčić was both on our shortlist and also way out of our league, but we could afford to sign Andrija Zivkovic and Nemanja Radonjic. Both were born nearby in Niš, and both were happy to return to the Serbian Superliga for the first time in a decade. While wingers Zivkovic and Radonjic are both our star signings, we did also pick up quite a few other really good players, and after 3 games of the season, it was actually quite clear that Warnock had Srdelica playing so much better than their average rating of 71. Of course, after spending 4 months now forcing our way into the Serbian title race, we had the chance to either crumble or grow from the pressure. January means that we can actually strengthen our team a little bit more, and if we look at this map, Warnock suggests that we could sign locally born 37-year-old Xherdan Shaqiri. He was good for Stoke and great for Liverpool, but the Serbian ownership simply laugh. They know that he would never come to play in Serbia. The second half of the season could be either incredible or another disaster. We had both of those important away trips to TSC and Subotica, while the top 3, Vojvodina, Red Star and Partizan, still had to come to our tiny 3,000-seater stadium that was hidden away close to the Greek border. The Greek border, that's actually a great idea. Our old OFI Crete striker, Georgios Koutsaias, had never actually developed, and in his final 6 months of his contract, we loaned him in again from Auxerre. His pace would still be unmatched in this league, and the combination of Zivkovic, Radonjic and Koutsaias could blow away most of the division. The first team in the firing line of our new front 3 was going to be TSC. I would say that our first 11 is probably clear of TSC, but their academy is one of the best in the league at this point. In the past, they've helped produce players like Dusan Tadic, so I guess that reputation is absolutely earned. We have a bunch of talented youngsters in our team too though, and Kovacevic is probably the best attacking midfielder we've had since we had Ozobik all the way back in Azerbaijan. He got the assist to give the assist to Zivkovic, and we were 1-0 up just before half time. We were absolutely dominating them though. 1-0 was absolutely not the fair result. Their goalkeeper was on fire, and it seemed like he would stop almost every single chance we would get. We got our lucky rebound there. Zivkovic eventually found our midfielder Lukic, and and it was yet another brilliant save. This match was pure domination. In fact, TSC didn't even have a single shot in this game. Their best attack was right here, and the referee blew before they could even cross the halfway line. When I said this front three could blow teams away, I wasn't quite expecting that. With there only being a single route out of this country, we can actually now totally ignore that game against Subotica. There's no massive importance on it other than 3 points. Thankfully, when we do play them, we do get all 3 points, and with just 6 games left in the season, we actually have the chance to go for the title. To say that the title would be unlikely is to undersell the probability quite a lot. In fact, since 1990, 36 years ago from the season we're playing, only Red Star and Partizan have won titles. In terms of total titles, it's actually currently split 37 to 30 in favour of Red Star, and they were going to be the next targets in our firing line. Speaking of firing lines, we got off like a shot in this game against Red Star Belgrade, but we knew that they were going to be a much tougher game than the likes of TSC. In fact, we haven't conceded a shot in about 3 matches, and the first one we do concede in this game, they roll it into the bottom corner with a really nice finish. Kovacevic and Lukic linked up again, and I think at this point, every single Serdalika fan was just hoping this goalkeeper didn't play like TSC's. Thankfully, he didn't. He made a mistake half coming for the corner when he could have punched it away, and it was 1-1. There was actually a lot of mistakes going on in the Red Star Belgrade defence. Look at that kind of press. We're forcing mistakes even though they're the second best team in the league. We had to be more ruthless with our finishing. We're making a lot of chances, but when you're wasting chances like that, the team talk at half-time had to be all about making the most of every single opportunity. It didn't take long for us to get our first opportunity of the second half. Kutseas one-on-one, and his decision-making there proves why he never became the player he had the potential to be. Neil Warnock just about resisted the urge to substitute him off, and thankfully he didn't, because he was part of the move for the second goal. Another nice finish there from our attacking midfielder. If only Kutseas had done the same, it probably would be game over right now. He did play a really nice ball through to Kneznevic though, and his one-on-one finishing was absolutely spot on. Not bad for a defensive midfielder, and there's a reason that he's our number 7 and probably future captain. Red Star Belgrade kept one of the craziest games of the season alive with a nice volley finish right there, and we had one last chance where Kutseas finally got his second goal of the game. It should have been his hat-trick, but he would actually get one last chance in the dying minutes of this match. He would win the ball himself in midfield, he would have enough pace to just about get around the defence, but in the end he made the wrong decision again. It didn't really matter, we still got the 3 points, but it could have been a lot safer. The last team outside of Red Star and Partizan to actually win the title was Vojvodina back in 1989. In fact, if they hadn't won that title, we'd have been saying there was only 2 winners of this league in the past 70 years. We were hoping that Serdalika would be next on that list, and if we win this game, we would have an even better chance. Vojvodina were actually out of the title race before we'd even split into the championship and relegation groups, so we knew that we were a better team than them, but again, they are 4th place in this league for a reason. Neil Warnock has a lot of experience, as I'm sure you know, in many leagues at this point, so he knows that if you're in 4th place after this many matches, you're probably a very good team. The thing is though, we're a much better side. We've developed this team from being second last when we took over to finishing 5th last season, and now we have a real shot of finishing 1st place. There's not a single player in this team that I think we could improve on realistically for the Serbian league. This team is definitely the best footballing side that Neil Warnock has put together in this series. I think the Turkish team could probably challenge it, but it would absolutely walk all over the Greek team and definitely the Azerbaijani team. And you can tell from some of the passing moves that this team does, like this one, how good they are. Just before half time, we could easily have been 2 or 3 goals up, but we went in level. Of course, we're just going to keep trying to make as many chances as we can in the second half. That was a really good one there from Zivkovic, who's been a little bit disappointing in front of goal this season. Radonjic had another good chance there, dribbling into the box, but they would just keep recycling the ball back to us. That meant we kept getting chances. This one came to Radonjic, who again tried to finesse it in the far corner, but it's yet another great save from Vojvodina. Until finally we get the breakthrough, a nice cross, and I think it's an even better finish on the half volley. Keeping that down and making sure it finds the net is all that Jovanovic had to do, and he did exactly that. Just a couple of seconds later, we score an even more spectacular goal. This one making it 2-0, and this one basically securing the win against Vojvodina, one of the teams that we were really worrying about in this championship group. Annoyingly, Partizan would also win, but that's fine, because we're playing them in our next match. With just 2 games of the season left to play, it looked like everything would come down to a single match between us and Partizan Belgrade. We were currently 3 points behind them, but had a slightly better goal difference, mainly thanks to the signing of Georgios Koutsaias. His pace was earning at least one goal every 2 or 3 games, and that put us in a situation where a win would make us be first place in the league for the first time this season with only a single game to go. The pace of Koutsaias was a massive part of the pre-match talk. Partizan's defence was slow, there was no getting around it, so our wingers and Koutsaias, they could have a lot of the ball and they just had to make the right decisions when they get into the danger zones, like this one here from Radonjic. It was the right decision, it was just a great save. Finessing that in the far corner was absolutely the right idea. It actually took us 20 minutes until we could use Koutsaias' pace, and didn't he use it well? He got a lucky ricochet off the defender, but the finish was absolutely amazing and he made the chance basically by himself. He was so good for us in Crete 2 years ago, and he's looking like he's going to do the exact same thing. He's going to lead us to a title in Serbia. All we have to do now is hold on for another 70 minutes, and that's going to be easier said than done, because this Partizan team is actually really good. It's got a lot of 78, 79s, even an 80 rated player in it, so if we want to hold on, we're going to have to defend, and honestly, attacking is probably the best form of defense. That was a difficult chance from the edge of the box, but still forced a good save, so if we keep that level of effort up, we could still go on to be first in the league with just 1 game to go. What a great ball that was out from Koutsaias, and Radonjic with a very ambitious effort. If that had found the near post top corner, that would have definitely been goal of the season in the most important game of the season. Half time meant we only had to survive another 45 minutes, and this half was going to be one of very fine margins. The first one, Koutsaias being offside when he would have been definitely through on goal. The second one, Koutsaias' slide tackle being given as a foul, even though again we would have been through on goal. And the third one, this tackle right here, stopping the attack from Partizan and not giving away a penalty, meaning that there was just 1 chance left in the game. Belic would step forward from midfield and he would hideously waste the chance, nowhere near even being on the target. The last few seconds of the game, we would attack down the left. Ristic had the chance to try and make it 2-0. He cut inside, his shot was just as bad, but it didn't matter. The referee blew his whistle and we had officially won the game 1-0. Knowing we only had to match Partizan in our final game of the season, we did exactly that. They won, we won by a few more goals, and our heroic team from a forgotten and tragic part of the world had overcome all of the odds. We ended the season level on points with Partizan, with a squad lower rated than over half of the league, and 4 years younger on average than any other team in the top half. I'd say Warnock set them up for more success, but that'll have to be for another manager to do. We only had a single option for this leg of the journey, and after beating teams close to the Serbian border last time, only Osijek was in range of any team in Serbia. Osijek is most well known for being surrounded by impassable swampland, but it's also the hometown of a FIFA icon in Davor Suker. It's also home to the 2021 Croatian League runners-up NK Osijek. They've never actually won the title in Croatia, but this team has also never been relegated. A famous team with a fairly average history, this is the perfect team for this save. We've got 2 teams that we can beat to help us leave Croatia. We'll probably go via Italy in the next leg, which we avoided back when we were in Greece, but the strategic positions of Rijeka and Istria on the west coast will allow us to move to dozens of teams in central and northern Italy. If we go via the north, we get access to 2 of Italy's most famous FIFA sides in Udinese and Venezia. Alternatively, we could go via central Italy, but this path would result us in only really being able to move to Fiorentina, which still needs a total rebuild if they want to be ready for a league win. If we don't fancy Italy at all, we could actually skip directly over Slovenia, and Austria is also just within our range. 6 of the Austrian Bundesliga teams would be available if we could go on to beat Varaždin, but it's going to be a bit of a tougher game. This means we've got a lot of big games this season. The away games at Istria and Varaždin are going to be crucial for leaving the country, but we will also need to beat the reigning champions Dinamo Zagreb to make sure we get this title. Hajduk Split and Lokomotiva are also huge matches for this club. I've got no idea who's really in my squad, and I have even less idea about how to pronounce some of these players' names. Our budget is similar to what we had in Greece and Serbia, and our team is clearly the second best in this division. To overtake Dinamo and cruise to the title, we'll need a little bit more pace out wide, probably an experienced midfielder and 2 dominant centre backs, and thankfully, our scouts already know just the men to sign. Neil Warnock thought it would be fitting to bring back a player who was both a FIFA legend and someone who also played against him in the Championship back on FIFA 16. How perfect would it be for our 35 sprint speed Alen Halalovic to become a legend in Croatia in his final ever season? Even if he doesn't, I know one of these other players we've signed could become a hero, so let's try and find out who. 2 sturdy centre-backs are available for free, the Italian Ceccaroni and German Baumgartel, and it actually looked like our team was already ready to compete with Zagreb for the title. With our deals finalised, it was time for Warnock to manage his first ever game in the Croatian Football League. Our first 2 games were both away from Osijek, and the first was against Enquiries. It turned out to be an easy win against arguably the worst team in the league. The second game was a bit bigger though. It was actually already away to Rijeka, one of the teams that we had to beat if we wanted to head to northern Italy. In the whole of Croatia, there's not a single journey that's longer than Osijek heading to Rijeka. It's 400 kilometers and it's 8 hours on the bus, but every single player in this team has done this journey, or at least one that's longer than this in the past. So we knew how to prepare, and we were on it from minute 1. In fact, in the first 5 minutes, we had our first chance. Alen Halalovic dancing around a couple of defenders. The ball would make its way to Fuchak, and he would have his shot blocked on the line after showing a nice piece of skill. The rest of the first half was all Osijek, but the first chance of the second half actually fell to Rijeka, and they would punish us. With their first shot of the game, we had gone behind. This was all about getting the comeback on now, and Mulitman Miertz would start it off. What a finish that was from just on the edge of the box. It was a tight angle, but his finish was absolutely brilliant. Our play was also brilliant. We did some nice tiki-taka on the edge of the box, producing a chance, and we knew with 20 minutes to go, we really did have a decent chance of scoring. Halalovic would actually be the one on the end of the chance. He's created so much for us in this first match, and he would be the one that put us into the lead. We deserved to be 2-1 up. It was just an all-round nice goal. Nice passing, nice finish, nice movement off the ball, and Neil Warnock absolutely appreciated that. Our main objective was to try and get a bit of confidence into Halalovic, because we knew that he could dominate matches at this level, and you could see from the finish he tried there, he was absolutely loving it. But we got a red card, and things were not looking so good. All of a sudden, in such an important game, we had to hang on. They would hit the post, we would clear the ball, and the referee would blow his whistle. We got the win. After we played Rijeka, we also faced Lokomotiva, a team that's also going to finish in the bottom 3. It was another easy win, and after 3 games, we were on 9 points. If any team was about to stop that run though, it would probably be Hajduk Split. Historically, Hajduk are one of the 2 biggest clubs in the league, and they play against the only other bigger side in the eternal derby every time they face Dynamo Zagreb. They've also won the Croatian League 8 times now in the past 37 years, with only Zagreb's 27 titles eclipsing them. It was going to be a tough game, just like that away match against Rijeka, but at least this time, we had the home crowd at the Opus Arena behind us. The game didn't start off very well. We actually went 1 down thanks to a few mistakes that were starting to creep into our game for the first time. But halftime came and suddenly we looked like a totally different team. We were pressing forwards and we managed to score just before the 60th minute. But then we conceded again and it looked like we were in danger of collapsing and getting our first loss. With 30 minutes to find an equaliser, we kept pushing for that second goal. We go close a couple of times, but eventually it comes and we get the equaliser. We kept pushing for a third to win the match, but in the end, I guess we'll have to take the draw against such a good team. Somehow though, even after we went unbeaten during a pretty difficult start, we were still joint first with Zagreb after 7 games. There was a bit of a gap forming behind us in 3rd place, but it was actually NK Istra that currently sat in that position. This made the 400-kilometer trip even more important. The Rijeka game meant that we'd already confirmed we'd be able to leave Italy to Udinese or Venezia, but deep down I think Neil Warnock wanted the option to move to both Sassuolo and Fiorentina as well. Just a few days before the big journey to Istra on the west coast, we got quite a lot of injuries all coming through at the same time. In the end we had 5 key players all injured, but thankfully our squad depth was actually really good, so we had 2 or 3 good players in every single position. This meant that the Istra game was a lot tougher than we expected, but Alen Halalovic did what he'd been doing all season. He put the ball on the plate for one of the simplest goals you'll ever see. Another team dominated by the man that used to have 92 potential, and the Osijek fans felt like he was actually playing at 92 overall. We stay in the title fight into December, and you can feel the tension starting to build around the squad. This team has been in this position before, crumbling after leading the league at the halfway point. That's exactly why transfer windows make every Osijek fan nervous. Last time they had a chance at the title, the club decided to sell Ante Majstorovic to China for €7 million, and they would miss out on the title by 9 points. We get a few big offers in this January too. We can't have unhappy players, so a couple leave and we replace them with a couple of similarly rated players. We do get a huge £3.5 million offer for Alen Halalovic though. He's our best playmaker, but he absolutely wants to leave. We can't have too many unhappy players in our squad, so we actually agreed to sell him as well, and in his final game for us, he puts in a man of the match performance and stretches our lead to 3 points. As the news strikes that Halalovic will be leaving, morale throughout the team drops. we'll need to replace Halilovic, and I think Dragomir Knežević could be the best option. He's still only 22, so our favourite midfield from last year in Serbia will be joining Osijek from Serdalika for a few £1 million. In his first match though, he struggles quite badly. He doesn't score or assist in his second, third or fourth games either. Have we actually just made a big mistake getting rid of Halilovic that means we're going to be forced into a second Croatian season? Well, with first place officially lost to Zagreb, we head to the capital city to play against Gorica. Once again, we start Knežević in midfield, but this time, something different happens. Knežević is in the middle of every single move we do. He's pinging passes out to the left and the right, and finally, he gets his first goal. Later in the game, Knežević also sees a pass that no one else in our team could, and single-handedly earns us 3 points against Gorica. Finally, we were back in some decent form, and we need to be because now we're 5 points behind Zagreb with just 15 games to go. Thankfully though, with every team in this league playing each other 4 times, 2 of those 15 games are actually going to be against Dinamo Zagreb. In leagues where teams play against each other 4 times, you can actually get some pretty interesting ends to the season, and this was shaping up to be one of them. From the first minute, you could tell both teams were wanting to win this match. Stojkovic, the league's top scorer, forcing a great save off our goalkeeper right there, and right down the other end, we were straight back at them. Our right back put in a really good cross, and on the volley, we smash it straight into the back of the net. A very nice goal, and one that could be very, very important this season. We went into the second half with a bit of a different mentality. We were just going to press them as high up the pitch as intensely as we can. And our midfielder Lazaro won the ball, crossed it in, and Zivkovic hit in yet another really nice volley. What a goal that was, from winning the ball that high to getting the cross exactly right to the finish and celebration. Everything about that goal, very satisfying to watch. But of course, we're not going to write Zagreb off just yet. They have a lot of experience, nearly 30 titles, they've been in this position before, and we did a massive mistake in the 69th minute. We give away a stupid penalty, Stojkovic steps up, and of course, as the league's top scorer, he is not going to miss a penalty. So that meant we now had 20 minutes to try and hold on to see out this win. Dinamo Zagreb were all out of attack, and in fact we dived in, and it probably did save us from conceding a goal, but Baumgartel got a red card. Just like in that game against Rijeka, we now had about 20 minutes. We were going to have to hold on in this match with just 10 men. We decided to switch up quite a few players in our defence, and it looked like it was working because Manev was an absolute monster at the back. The first Zagreb chance after the red card came in the 90th minute, and Manev was the man to step in and clear the ball. But Zagreb weren't done yet. They still had a minute left. And again, this time Duarte got the interception. Zagreb would keep hold of the ball though, and they would finally get the cross in. It was blocked, it was saved, it was caught, and we would end up winning. After a potentially title-deciding win against Zagreb, a few more matches pass, and Osijek and Zagreb are both in really good form. With 7 games of the season left to go, the table puts us in second place, just 2 points behind them. We continued our good run. We just about managed to beat Rijeka, we went to Belupo and won decisively there as well, and even managed to destroy Lokomotiva by beating them by 3 goals. But the gap stayed at 2 points. Finally though, it was time for another game against Zagreb. The anticipation was huge. We don't want to risk this second season, so we need to win this game and confirm the title. The table had set things up nicely for a home tie at the Opus Arena. We'd won the away game twice, so we knew that we could do it in front of our own fans. The fans were really excited for this one too, because with a capacity crowd of 13,000, we fought for every ball. We knew which players to trust, and we knew who could handle the pressure. The pressure wasn't really that big of a factor for us though, because we've been in this situation for so many times in this challenge. It happened in Azerbaijan, in Turkey, in Greece, and in Serbia. We had to win a match towards the end of the season when it seemed like everything was lost. We knew exactly what we needed to do in this one. Just get the 3 points, and then try and beat some of the worst teams we were yet to face. We did get a corner after some good pressure within the first 20 minutes, and when Neil Warnock was a player, one of the things he was always told was to follow in his chances. Stanic did exactly that and smashed in on the volley a corner rebound goal. Not the best goal we've scored this season, but possibly one of the most important. We kept the pressure up, we kept the passes going, we kept the tackles flying in, and throughout the entire first half, This was one of the most one-sided matches we've played against Zagreb this year, with Halalovic not being in the squad anymore and Knežević not being that great at dominating big games. It was actually Stanic that was being the biggest difference maker, a centre-back who was playing at left-back. It was a really nice cross and Fukac really should have scored. Halalovic, and that's not the same Halalovic we had earlier in the season, nearly scored against us there, and it just seemed like there was chance after chance after chance in this game. It seemed every 5 minutes there could have been a goal. Knežević with a good chance right there. He would get another one a few minutes later and he would also fluff that one up too. Our mullet man striker Mies was also playing pretty well, but he hasn't scored in a while. But that's fine when you've got him being part of the build-up for goals like that one. We passed it basically entirely across the defence of Zagreb, and there is nothing a goalkeeper's going to do when they're one-on-one with Fukac in that situation. Although, we did, of course, have a bit of a reputation for making mistakes at the end of matches. And it looked like we'd done the exact same thing right here. We allowed a big gap in the middle there for Zagreb to exploit, and this guy is top scorer in the league for a reason, because he's actually really good at finishing. He was never going to miss that one. We knew we only had to hold on for a few more seconds, so when we won the ball, we just ran to the corner flag and decided to belt one as hard as we could. The referee blew his whistle, and yet again, we had won a massive game against Zagreb. With us now officially in first place, the season was starting to come to an end, and just like how we started with 5 tough games in our first 10, we were ending with 5 tough games in our last 5. The first of the 5 was the toughest. Hajduk Split had been so close to both us and Zagreb in the table this season, but they had fallen away over the past few weeks. Thanks to Knežević dominating the midfield, we just about beat them and kept ourselves in first place. Despite winning this match though, we hadn't won anything yet. We had 3 more banana skins left. First was Istra 1961, who we beat, and the best news about this game was that somehow Zagreb had drawn in the eternal derby, so now we were a full 5 points clear. Our next game was against Gorica, which we drew, and that meant we knew that a win would win us the title. We scraped past Lokomotiva, and Osijek had finally done it. After 37 years in the Croatian top division, Osijek were the deserved Croatian champions. After our last season in Croatia, we beat both teams on the west coast. We also won the title, which means we're free to move to Italy or Austria this season. Within the 250km range of Istra 1961, we can find Sassuolo, Fiorentina, Venezia and Udinese, and all of these are options for Neil Warnock's next move. The first question we need to answer today is which Italian team we're heading to for our first leg. We left the Croatia episode not sure where Warnock would prefer to go, but he's actually picked the most northern team of the 4, and we're going to be heading to Udinese. Udinese are well known for a few different reasons. Their former player Antonio Di Natale was one of the latest bloomers of all time, with only Messi and Ronaldo scoring more goals after turning 30 years old. The club have also won Serie C 3 times, Serie B 3 times, but never Serie A. If we want to move to either France or Switzerland, that is going to have to change. The club's owner recommends going back to their last successful strategy. That's something Warnock agreed with too. We'll have a month before the transfer window opens, so our scouts are sent to Chile, Brazil, Argentina and Colombia. To celebrate Neil Warnock's 82nd birthday, the staff are still singing Buon Compleanno as the first few signings walk through the door. First up is a defensive left winger, followed by a hard-working right winger. These two guys could be crucial because we're moving to a 3-5-2, the same formation Udinese used when they were Serie A runners-up all the way back in 1955. In the space of 3 months, we'd transformed the team from this to this, which was almost unrecognisable. Sure, a big part of good players wanting to join the club was the massive budget we'd been given, but the reputation Neil Warnock has for winning titles has had just as much of an impact. We were about to find out how good this team was because we were opening the season with games against Internazionale and AC Milan. I think the best way to describe this team was a very fluid side because we had a lot of good dribblers but almost no sturdy strength in defence. This meant we could score a lot of goals very easily, but it also found it quite hard to keep the goals out of our own net. Sure enough, this would turn out to be our downfall in the first season, because we ended our first Italian season in 3rd place. We strengthened again for season 2, and in the 8th season of this journey, we focused on bringing in the most physical set 3 centre-backs we could find. Neil Warnock would be proud of these 3 because some of their physical stats were almost unbelievable. Just like our season with Sabile in Azerbaijan, Crete in Greece and also Osijek in Croatia, the second season came down to a single match against the biggest force in Italian football, which was now actually Sassuolo. I'm not too sure how they ended up being so good now, but we denied their 93 rated attacking midfielder and 93 rated striker from creating anything, and we would go on to win 1-0. There were a few more games, but our team was just way too fast, strong, tall, and still creative for anyone to actually get in our way. We confirmed we could leave Italy by winning the title, and as so many clubs were close to the French border, we could go to basically any club in the south of France that we wanted. But I think it was pretty obvious that there was an easy choice to make. With only one more title win needed, we were heading west from Udine to the most exclusive and probably least Neil Warnock city possible, Monaco. Our manager from Sheffield was given a deluxe flat overlooking the harbour, and in return, we would have to deliver one last title. If we wanted to head to England though, we'd have to beat one of these few teams that are on the north coast of France, and for the first time, we'd actually be joining the best team in the league. This is a big reason why we're cramming 3 different nations into a single video, because this Monaco team is so ridiculous that we can barely talk about it. We won Serie A with a team that was so much worse than this, and this team was clear of even the likes of PSG, and I have no words to say how bizarre it was for Warnock to be the one greeting the pre-arranged transfer of Kylian Mbappe that was heading back to Monaco. Our budget was almost impossible to spend, but we tried our best. Warnock must have felt more like Captain Sheffield than the manager of a football club, because he was assembling the Monaco Avengers. With a team this good, we went unbeaten in August, we continued this into September, we crushed PSG in October, and had basically won the league by Christmas. I realise I haven't actually included too much footage of our game, so I thought I'd include this full match here against PSG that happened in January. If we can win this one, we've basically already won the league, because we're 19 points ahead of them, and they've got no real chance of catching up. The PSG team is still quite good. Xabi Simons and Gavi are both playing for PSG, and they're both pretty highly rated. But we've got Anthony Gordon, and he can do stuff like that. It was actually so surprising how good Gordon was for us. In many ways, he was actually the superstar of this team. He was ahead of people like Gabri Veiga. He was better than Kolo Muani. He was almost better than Mbappe. But despite Mbappe now being 33 years old, he still had the pace to get around Kimpembe. And what a finish that is to make it 2-0 within the first 20 minutes. To say PSG are our only real competition in this league, this just showed how dominant Monaco really were. Mbappe was playmaking, he was getting forwards, he was getting in behind, and the only way we were really ever conceding goals was from mistakes, like this one from Loic Bardet. You can see how annoyed Neil Warnock was, and he was even more annoyed when Xavi Simons put us at serious risk of losing the match. But we were still absolutely dominant on the attack. Mbappe had a one-on-one. He tried to go around Donnarumma, but couldn't quite do it. This time Gordon would have a one-on-one, and it was a brilliant save from Donnarumma. Gabri Veiga's passing was absolutely amazing, but Mbappe couldn't quite time his runs on a couple of occasions. Otherwise, this could easily have been 3-1. In fact, we made some substitutions, including bringing on Nelson Viper. Gordon would see Viper's run only a few minutes later, and yet again, Kimpembe would be done for pace. We were going to score this one, we would get 3-0 and the 3 points. The win over PSG in January saw us grow our lead to 21 points, which even for the French league was total domination. With one eye on the future, we had to make sure we could still beat one of the teams from Normandy away from home, and we would actually beat both of them, with both Lens and Le Havre falling under Neil Warnock's iron fist. With Mbappe's return to Monaco going even better than even he could have imagined, Warnock also did something that was never part of this challenge and qualified for the Champions League final. It really didn't matter if we'd win, but of course, this would be the ultimate feather in the cap of a legendary career. It's hard to imagine Monaco having the best team in the world, but even compared to the likes of Manchester City and Real Madrid, we were favourites for basically every game in this run. The Champions League final was no different. We won, Mbappe as captain lifted his first Champions League, and Neil Warnock was officially the best manager in the world while also turning 85 years old. Following in William the Conqueror's footsteps, Champions League winner and Neil Warnock was heading back to England via Normandy. For the first time, his choice of teams was actually pretty varied. With Monaco beating Le Havre, we had the choice of some of London's finest clubs. Also, some of the clubs on the south coast would fit into this challenge. Would we be trying to go invincible with Arsenal? Would it be last year's Europa League champions Chelsea, or one of the underdogs from London like Fulham, QPR or West Ham? Well, for Neil Warnock, there was only one real choice. Millwall have been promoted to the Premier League, they finally moved into the new Bermondsey Stadium, and they've got £150 million to spend on a brand new team. There's still a bit of a deep-held reputation of their inherent dirtiness at Millwall, but Neil Warnock is not having any of it. Just like how he rebuilt Cardiff to be a footballing side 15 years ago, this Millwall team is going to be his final great squad. Sure, this team wasn't quite as good as our Monaco team, but no Millwall fan will be complaining at the talent in our squad. With no teams really needing to get beat in our final season, we were staying in the Premier League and retiring no matter what happened. The only games we actually really need to highlight are the big derby days against West Ham. Neil Warnock has managed in Wales, he's managed in Turkey, Greece and Serbia, but this derby is right up for those with any of those fan bases. With all the hype for this match, it was quite ironic that the most interesting part of the first half happened within the first 13 minutes, Anthony's offside goal being the only real chance that happened in that entire half. Tammy Abraham would get a decent chance that you would have expected someone younger than 35 to have scored, but unfortunately Tammy Abraham is now quite an old striker. Parrott would also hit the crossbar, 30-year-old striker, and he's been absolutely unreal for us for most of this season. But he couldn't help us score against West Ham, and the game actually ended 0-0. Pretty ironic for all the hype the match had, but it actually turned out to be one of the most boring matches of our entire season. It was pretty obvious that Premier League football was harder than any other league we'd played in, but seeing our Millwall team perform as it did was also really satisfying. Both Millwall and West Ham would go on to finish mid-table, which isn't too bad of a result for a team that was built over the course of 3 weeks back in August. There was definitely more to come from this team, but the challenge was officially over. We started in Azerbaijan, we won the league in Turkey, Greece, Serbia, Croatia, Italy and France, and we finally played one last season in England. On the 1st of July 2035, Neil Warnock officially retired. And we're ending the longest career mode save that I have ever posted on this channel. I really hope you enjoyed watching this series. I'll always remember players like Kutsayas, Ozobik, Kaznevich, Simi, Mbappe, and a lot of these players from the Millwall team. And hopefully you'll also consider subscribing so you can catch any series that I make over the next couple of months. But really, thank you for watching. If you watched any minutes of this series, even if this was the only episode you've watched, thank you so much. I'll see you soon. Thank you for everything. Cheers and goodbye.